Hello everyone, this is Gothic Computing. I'm here to showcase Nobara Linux 41 running on the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, 32 gigs of RAM at 4000 6000 megahertz, whatever the XMP profile is for it, or whatever tuned mamma jamma. With the RX 7900 XTX. It's on a B850M ATX motherboard uh, with a tower cooler on it. No overclock on the 9800X3D or the 7900 XTX. So it's all stock, minus, of course, the RAM that's just at the 6000 megahertz frequency. That is just the out of box frequency that was advertised. Now I'm going to be testing Monster Hunter Wilds since I really didn't see anything online showing actual in game performance on Linux, and let alone the 9800X3D on Linux. So I went ahead and decided to grab one just to test it out. Now I am running two monitors and of course using OBS to record, so there is going to be a slight reduction in frame rate, but it shouldn't be too drastic. I do have one mod installed, and that was just to change my character because wasn't paying for that. So I've already beaten the pretty much the entirety of low and high rank with this character. We're just gonna do a single player. Well, actually, first off, gonna go single player, but we will just do. I'm running on 1440p. It is a gigabyte 165 hertz panel with variable rate. You know, variable refresh rate. It does have HDR as well. I'm just not using it at the moment. I will disable VSync. I was playing around with a bunch of stuff. I usually don't use FSR. I absolutely hate FSR and DLSS. But I'll just run it at ultra settings. No FSR. Leave the FXAA and TAA on. Otherwise, hair and stuff just looks terrible. So this, like, render distance and stuff, it always just seems better to keep it at low. It doesn't really seem to add much to anything except for stuttering. Alright. Get into the single player lobby. Now, of course, this game is horrendously optimized, considering even just going back to Monster Hunter World on this exact system. You know, the 8 physical cores will actually be fully utilized, unlike in this game, which makes zero sense, being, you know, more of an open world game. And then, of course, when you first load in, it does do shader caching stutter. There's always a slight stutter coming back into this camp here, no matter what you do. But as you can see, it's only, or I should say, it usually is only sitting around 40% utilized without recording and with only one monitor plugged in. So the fact that it's still dipping. Yeah, like that. Just lower percentiles.
I'll put the materials I gathered in your item box.
Now, I haven't really found any way to really get rid of the micro stuttering. Doesn't matter what settings I use. I just think it's assets loading in, which is kind of crazy. I don't know what is going on in the background. Like, the system's resources are not being used to the fullest. Then we can go ahead and test out. Go to the Scarlet Forest. It's probably the only other area that's really extremely taxing. And maybe hit up the oil well basin. Just in the camp, the city, or whatever you want to call it, alone is probably the hardest. So, always when you first load in, stutters. But honestly, I mean, it's kind of mediocre performance for, you know, a 7900 XTX at 1440p. Or even the 9800 X3D for that matter. And this is not much faster than the 7950X either, which was the system I had previously to this. It was averaging maybe about 20% less frames. Had the same stuttering problem, and that was actually running on Bazite Linux. So, of course, both Fedora-based OSs. I did try this system on CachyOS, but for whatever reason, KDE didn't like it. Kept having some issues. So I just decided I'd try out Nobara, because I really, really like the project that is going on over here. And so far, I mean, it's fantastic. Pretty much just plug and play.
On my way there.
Another thing to note is I have multiple systems. I have a 5700X system, 5600X system, and a 5900X system. With another system, I have a 12600K system. All of them have at least 32 gigs of RAM. My 5900X has 64 gigs, and all of those systems struggle to hit 60 FPS in this game on Linux. None of my computers have Windows at all. Yeah, so most of the time, um, with a single monitor and just VSync turned back on, it's I mean it's overall playable. And like I said, I beat the game this way.
A potential
All
target
right,
site here.
we will go
Check the
ahead
map in
and
your
check
register.
out the. Oops, doesn't want to pull up the map. The oil well basin base camp. I will say, playing this on the 5700X system I have with the 6700 XT, or sorry, it's just a 6700 non XT with 10 gigs of VRAM. There is no settings you can play with that system to get pretty much 60 FPS constant. Especially in this area, it's horrendous. As you can see, the micro stutters everywhere. Now, some of this could be attributed to having a second monitor plugged in. I usually don't run a second monitor while playing this game specifically. Playing any of my other games are perfectly fine. There are crashes, or I should say, I have experienced crashes uh, on every system I've played on. 12600K with the 2080 Ti, running under Solus Linux, experience crashing, low FPS, stuttering. The 5700X system running SteamOS also has a crashing issue. I had to run a custom command to be able to even get the game to run without crashing within the first 5 minutes of playing. The 5600X system would crash as well, and I think I have an idea of what's going on. If if I'm playing the game by myself, like in the single player mode, I have no issues. If I connect online or play with a friend and I have just Discord open in the background, I see him to crash intermittently. It's not consistent. It'll happen one day, but not the other day. It'll happen once and not for the rest of the night. I'm not sure what the hangup is. It doesn't look like it's just a Linux problem. I've seen tons of threads and other comments that people on Windows are experiencing issues with this game as well. So, let me know what y'all think. It's going to be my first video on this channel. So, have a good night, good day, whatever it is. See y'all later.